शहर की चमक दमक के पीछे झुग्गियों का अंधकार छिपा होता है। उस अंधकार को दूर किए बिना सभ्यता अधूरी है। Greetings and hearty laudations to all the reputable auxiliaries that are present over here. This is Hemant Sundar Saurabh Singh, hailing from a small village of industrial city Bulandshahr, Uttar Pradesh. I completed my primary to senior secondary education from there itself. Post that, I joined Delhi University for undergraduation in political science and English literature, and Chaudhary Charan Singh University, Meerut, for post-graduation in political science. And today, it is truly an honor to stand before you as a speaker of the day. With folded hands, I extend my heartfelt namaste to Professor Bhasavi Gupta ma'am and my deepest gratitude to Dr. Manish Karmwar sir, whose encouragement has brought me this wonderful opportunity to present today on a subject that stands at a crossroads of urbanization, social justice, and climate change, that is, slums in floodplains, which seeks to examine not only the physical vulnerabilities of such settlements, but also the broader socio-political challenge they represent. It is a subject that calls for both academic inquiry and policy reflection, as it touches the core equity, resilience, and sustainable urban future. This presentation will explore the complex interaction of informal settlements, urban planning, and environmental hazards. In India, and particularly I'm talking about Delhi NCR, this problem is highly visible. The Yamuna floodplains, for instance, host thousands of households. Many of them are migrant families who struggle to survive between the push of urban poverty and pull of environmental risk. So my zealous people, आज की presentation में हम देखेंगे कि किस तरीके से urban poverty problem create करती है और किस तरीके से वो environmental hazard बन जाती है. So today, my aim is to unpack these issues in 7 parts. First and foremost, I'll be defining slums, which ma'am has already described in a very deep manner. Later on, I'll be dealing with the understanding global trends in slum settlements and flood exposure. After that, I'll be dealing with India's unique vulnerabilities to floods and the status of slums in India, case studies of Delhi NCR, government policies and schemes, and last but not least, solutions and way forward. So first and foremost, अब समय है जिस मुद्दे पर आज हम बात कर रहे हैं उसको define करने का. So before we analyze, we need clarity on definitions. According to the Pranab Sen Committee 2010, a slum is a compact settlement of at least 20 households, often poorly built, temporary in nature, with inadequate sanitation, water supply, and ventilation. These settlements usually emerge in unhygienic conditions. And apart from that, according to UN Habitat, which adds that slums are characterized by lacking one or more of the following. Slums उन्हें कहेंगे जिनको ड्यूरेबल हाउसिंग नहीं है, जिनके पास सफिशिएंट लिविंग एरिया नहीं है, एक्सेस टू वाटर, एक्सेस टू सेफ वाटर नहीं है उनके पास, प्रॉपर सैनिटेशन नहीं है, और कोई जो टेन्योर है उनका वो सिक्योर नहीं है. So basically, these are the definitions which are very materialistic in nature. Like, it is not philosophical or abstract because they describe the lived realities of millions. Globally, over 1 billion people, yes, my zealous people, I repeat, 1 billion people lives in slums. It's a huge number. And the number continues to rise with rapid urbanization. So now it's a time to defining floodplains. According to US Geological Survey, USGS, and National Disaster Management Authority, that is NDMA India, defines a floodplain. A floodplain is a low-lying area adjacent to a river, stream, or other water body that is periodically inundated when water overflows in natural or artificial bank. Floodplains are formed by natural disposition of sediments over time, making them fertile but also highly vulnerable to flooding. They are considered dynamic ecosystems that provide water recharge, fertile soil, and biodiversity support. But when encroached by unplanned settlements, they become zone of high disaster risk. And it also impacts the climate. Like climate change is one of the pinnacle impact because of the rising temperature, river flooding, rise in sea level, and extreme weather events that are witnessed in current state of affairs. Moving ahead, now talking about the global trends, global trends in flood risk and slum settlements. So recently, a global study published in Nature Cities about renewed attention to this. It found that India has the world's highest number of slum clusters located in flood-prone areas. So let me share a few key insights from that study. First and foremost, India has over 158 million slum dwellers living in flood-prone areas, particularly in Ganga River Delta, which is naturally vulnerable. Globally, slums dwellers are 32% more likely to live in floodplains compared to other areas, lie in areas exposed to flooding. The global south is especially affected. India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Pakistan lead the list. But so do countries like Rwanda, Morocco, and Brazil. So, talking in a very deep connotation, let's talk about Indonesia. Over 7.2 million people in Jakarta lived in informal settlements near rivers and coast. And Africa, Rwanda's Kigali slum highly vulnerable. Over 60% of urban population lives in informal housing exposed to flash floods. These are the case studies of Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Morocco. And these two continents are not alone. We have seen the slums or the floods in South America as well. For instance, Brazil's Rio de Janeiro, over 1.5 million residents are favelas. Now, अब हम बात करते हैं उस चीज की जो आज का हमारा बहुत अहम मुद्दा है. At the very end, we have to deal with slums in India. And lastly, but not least, we have to deal with slums in Delhi, particularly Delhi NCR. So let's talk about slums in India. In India, the census 2011 recorded the around 17% of urban population, that is 1.39 crore households, live in slums. The NSSO, that is National Sample Survey Office, of 2012 listed over 33,510 slums nationwide. States like Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and West Bengal have the largest shares. In cities like Mumbai and Kolkata, slums dominate the urban landscape. So basically, these figures are critical because they reveal that slums are not marginal. They are integral to India's urban reality. And when we examine their locations, we find a striking pattern. Many are located on floodplains itself. So flooding in India and pattern and cause. Let us turn to the Indian context more closely. India is a naturally flood prone due to its geography and monsoon climate. Floods in India can be categorized as riverine flood, which when a river overflows due to heavy rainfall, snow melt, or dam release. Secondly, urban floods, waterlogging in cities caused by poor drainage and encroachments. Flash floods, sudden surge due to cloudburst or glacial lake outburst, especially in Himalayas. The Brahmaputra, Ganga, and Krishna river basin are particularly vulnerable. The Himalayan belt sees frequent flash floods because of steep slopes and fragile geology. Flash floods are increasing from 132 incidents in 2020 to 184 in 2022. Recent events include the Himachal Pradesh flood in 2025, Wayanad in Kerala 2024, Ladakh in 2024, and Sikkim in 2023. Climate change is aggravating the problem. Between 1981 and 2020, extreme rainfall events doubled and monsoon intensity increased by 56%. My prudent listeners, see, it is increased by 56%, which is a huge amount of percentage. And urban expansion worsened the crisis. Cities like Bengaluru and Mumbai are expanding into natural floodplains. Studies shows India ranked third globally. Yes, India ranked third globally between 1985 and 2015 in urban growth into flood-prone areas. Finally, poor urban drainage system turned heavy rain into disasters. Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Bengaluru suffer waterlogging due to outdated infrastructure, encroachment, and blocked drains. The Chennai flood of 2015 are a stark reminder. Plastic waste and encroachments of channels magnified this devastation and turns it into a huge disaster. So now talks about the slum in floodplains and India's situation. So why do slums emerge in floodplains despite this huge risk? The answer is, as ma'am has already mentioned, the biggest answer to this is affordability. Marginalized groups, migrant workers, daily wage earners, vendors, and farmers cannot access formal housing. Floodplain land, being risky, is cheap or vacant for them. For them, the calculation is only survival. Better to live in a risky floodplain close to jobs and market than in distant area they cannot afford. But the risks are severe. Repeated displacement during floods. Health hazards like malaria, dengue, cholera are from contaminated water. Livelihood disruptions, especially from those relying on agriculture, vending, or casual labor. In essence, the poor are caught in various cycles. Poverty forces them into risky zones and flush push them deeper into poverty. So, मेरे दिमाग में एक सोशल जस्टिस की बात आती है कि आर वी सर्विंग द पर्पस, आर वी डूइंग द जस्ट विद द पीपल हु आर रिसाइडिंग इन द स्लम्स? सो आंसर इज बिगेस्ट नो, वी आर नॉट डूइंग दिस. सरकारें बनती हैं, चेंज होती हैं, नई सरकारें आती हैं, वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स चलती है, बट स्लम्स की इश्यूज को नजरअंदाज किया जाता है. पॉलिसीज बनती भी हैं तो धरातल पर खरी नहीं उतर पाती हैं. So that's the biggest problem. So marginalized are always at the risk. Migrant workers and urban poor pushed into floodplains, periphery, urban zones, lack of affordable housing, which result into forcing into high-risk areas. Eviction and insecurity, demolition drives under ecology or beautification worsen precarity. No education and climate injustice is also there. The poorest face the worst risk despite the least contribution to degradation. Affluent areas shielded by better infrastructure and state support. So, my dear people, it is a paradoxical situation. Those who are the very less contributor to the climate change or global warming has to suffer the most. Yes, I'm talking about the slums. आज हम यहाँ बैठकर प्रेजेंटेशन दे रहे हैं, सुन रहे हैं, आपस में बात कर रहे हैं, but think about those who are living in those areas which are highly vulnerable in nature. And those people are also the very least contributor to the climate change. So is it the justice with them? Obviously not. So the core issue is flooding is not only ecological or technical, it is a political question of whose lives are protected. So here flood amplifies socio-economic inequalities. Slum dwellers has to face disappropriate impacts. Obviously job loss, displacement, poor access to healthcare and education, weak infrastructure and lack of drainage preparedness worsen the risk. In result, low education, no access to resources like flood insurance, increase vulnerability. So the reason is straightforward. Floodplains are undesirable for formal development. So land value are low for poor who cannot access formal housing. This becomes their only option. But the consequences are disastrous. Floods do not affect everyone equally. Yes, I also has repeated the same. The poor face its worst outcome. Greater loss of livelihood, displacement, health crisis, and lack of recovery mechanism. In this way, flood act as a magnifier of socio-economic inequality in society. Let's talk about the recent flood disasters in India. Case highlights. India has witnessed multiple extreme flood events in recent years, driven by a combination of climate change, intense monsoon rainfall, fragile mountain ecosystems, and unplanned human activity. Each case underlines different drivers and impact of flood risk. First and foremost, let's talk about Himachal Pradesh, July 2025. We have seen a flash flood plus landslide due to intense monsoon, deforestation, and road building, which results into 300 plus deaths and major infrastructure loss. Kerala, Wayanad, July 2024, landslide plus debris dam breach. It is a catastrophic flooding, highlights flood landslide link in fragile Western Ghats. Ladakh, July 2024, flash flood in Shyok River, Army tanks swept away. casualties triggered by snowmelt and river surges into cold desert region. Sikkim, October 2023, glacial lakes outburst, flood, GLOF, that results into the widespread devastation, retreating glaciers and unstable lakes and emerging hazards. Now, let's deal with the more pinnacle and the core issue of today's presentation, that is the case study of Delhi NCR and Yamuna floodplains. So here on slide, you can see the devastations of Delhi floods recent years. The Yamuna floodplain in Delhi NCR illustrates this vividity. Study estimates that around 56 bastis with nearly 9,350 households, about 47,000 people live in Zone O of Yamuna floodplain. Many are migrants who have lived there for decades. Some practice farming, growing vegetables and running nurseries. Others are daily wages workers or fisher folks. But every monsoon, the Yamuna swells, submerging their homes. In July 2023, Delhi witnessed its worst flooding in 45 years. Thousands of families were evacuated. Schools and relief camps were turned into temporary shelters. Children's education was disrupted. Livelihoods lost and diseases spread rapidly. And government response have often been limited to eviction drives. The Delhi High Court has ordered slum dwellers on floodplains to vacate within days. The Delhi Development Authority has carried out demolitions in the name of restoring and riverfront. Yet resettlement is minimal and often far from workforce. Thus, environmental protection is framed in opposition to the right of the poor, instead of being integrated with social justice. अपनी बात को आगे बढ़ाते हुए मुझे बात याद आती है जयशंकर प्रसाद जी की, जिन्होंने कहा है, सभ्यता केवल ऊंची इमारतों में नहीं, बल्कि उन इमारतों की छाया में रहने वाले मनुष्य के जीवन में झलकनी चाहिए. So what kind of civilization we are having towards? So now talking about the reasons of drainage system failure: outdated sewage infrastructure, rapid urban growth, illegal and unapproved constructions, improper waste disposals, poor maintenance, and weak enforcement. So let's talk about the solution part, like how the policies, framework, and schemes are being implemented and introduced by the stakeholders. India has several policies addressing slums and urban infrastructure. First and foremost, legal framework. Land and colonization are state objects. The Slum Area Improvement and Clearance Act 1956 empowers authorities to improve or clear slums, but its implementation is uneven. Second, we have housing schemes, that is PMAYU, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban, launched in 2015, aims to provide Pakka House. By October 24, 118.64 lakh houses were sanctioned, of which 29 lakh were for slum dwellers. Urban infrastructure missions. Amrit focus on improving water, sewage, and drainage. Smart city missions promote resilience and better services. Apart from this, we have Swachh Bharat Mission, Urban 2.0, aim for garbage-free cities. Reducing garbage, clogging helps flood management indirectly. These schemes are important, but they remain fragmented. Slum dwellers in floodplains often fall through the cracks, neither fully recognized as legal residents, nor adequately rehabilitated. Let's talk about the implementation of the renewal of Singapore slums and urban areas. My dear people, my prudent listeners, we have already known about the very much fact that change is a rule of life. And if we adopt the models that are doing exceptionally well, then what's wrong in this? So implementation of renewal of Singapore slums and urban areas, Housing and Development Boards, HDB, 1960s, launched a massive policy housing program to replace slums, focus on high-rise, affordable housing, slum clearance and resettlement, relocation of Kampong village dwellers, provision of basic services, water, sanitation, and electricity, integrated urban planning, long-term planning with zoning, transport and amenities. The Land Acquisition Act 1966 empowered state to acquire land for public purpose. And what Singapore done for community development? New towns designed with schools, parks, and community centers, emphasize on social cohesion and multicultural integration. And the outcome is obviously very fecund and fruitful in nature, as by 1985, over 80% of the population was rehoused. Singapore became a model for slums-free urban development. So let's talk about the solution in deep connotations. So what is the way forward? First and foremost, region-specific adaptation. The National Disaster Management Plan emphasizes localized strategies. Flood risk map must be city-specific, integrating soil type, rainfall pattern, and urban growth. Restrict urban expansion into floodplains. Enforce zoning laws strictly. Integrate green buffers along rivers. Upgrading informal settlements. Instead of evictions, improve flood resilience, elevated housing, better drainage embankment, integrate with PMAY so housing schemes meet resilience standards. And we can obviously use the data and technology in current state of affairs. We can use satellite data for NRSC, that is National Remote Sensing Center, and forecast from IMD, expand early warning systems like IFLOS, that is IFLOWS, Mumbai, and CFLOS, Chennai, to other cities. Next, we have innovative models, because in the era of technology, we should use the innovation in a very proper manner so that it can serve the purpose for the marginalized section of the society. Because as we know, विकास वही है जब पंक्ति में लगे सबसे पिछड़े वर्ग के लोग को, सबसे पिछड़े वर्ग के व्यक्ति को उसका फायदा मिल पाए, अन्यथा वो विकास नहीं है। अगर हम पूंजीपति की जेब को ही भरते जाएं या उन्हीं को देखते रहें, so that's not the development or that's not the vikas at all. So we should use the innovative models like Spawn City concept. Shanghai used green roofs, permeable pavements, and wetland to absorb stormwater. Mumbai has begun adopting this model, but still it is the need that another cities need to adopt the same technology. Eco-reforestation. Bengaluru's Jharkhand Lake restoration shows how wetland can act as flood buffers while providing ecological services. So these approaches demonstrate that development and resilience are not mutually exclusive. They can reinforce each other. My dear people, you have witnessed the Gurugram flood recently. देखा होगा कि 8-8 घंटे लोगों को जाम में रहना पड़ा. उनकी लाइफ किस तरीके से बदल गई, या उनके पास एक ऑप्शन अवेलेबल है कि उनके पास खुद का पक्का घर है जो कि फ्लड प्लेन से थोड़ा दूर है, बट परेशानी सबने झेली. बट द कॉर्पोरेट मॉडल तो फिर भी ऑनलाइन शिफ्ट कर सकते हैं अपने आप को, उनका वर्क फ्रॉम होम हो सकता है. बट थिंक अबाउट दोज पीपल, थिंक अबाउट द चाइल्ड हु आर रिसाइडिंग देयर इन द स्लम एरिया नियर द फ्लड प्लेन्स. क्या बीतती होगी उन पर. ना प्रॉपर खाना मिल पाता है, ना प्रॉपर पानी है, ना हेल्थ के लिए कुछ है, ना एजुकेशन के लिए कुछ है. सो we need to think about it. So with this note, I come to the conclusion. So to conclude, slums in floodplains are not simply a matter of illegal encroachment. They are a symptom of deeper structural issues: lack of affordable housing, rapid urbanization, climate change, and weak governance. The global study reminds us that India tops the world in flood-exposed slum dwellers. This is both a warning and a call to action. As the deadline for 2030 sustainable development approaches, the urgency is clear. Addressing slums in floodplains directly advances SDG 1, there is no poverty. SDG 6, clean water and sanitation. SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities. So we must envision cities that are not only ecologically sustainable, but also socially just. We should follow up the principles of John Rawls' theory of justice and the idea of veil of ignorance. So protecting rivers should not mean displacing the poor without alternatives. True resilience lies in inclusive planning that balance environmental restoration with human dignity. Slums in floodplain remind us of a difficult truth. Climate change is not just about nature, it is about justice. And justice demands that those who contribute least to the crisis should not suffer the most from its consequences. With this note, I rest my case. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Hemant. Thank you for sharing your views. Across India, you have covered, I guess, slums and floodplains. And, it has given us a deeper understanding of the challenges that these communities face and the remarkable resilience they show. So, thank you for your, thought provoking perspective. We do have some questions from our listeners, and we have now opened the floor for questions. So, you all can put up your queries. I would be asking them. So we have a first question. It is said that, in India's flood-prone slums, how does disaster capitalism use floods and climate risk as a pretext to displace the vulnerable communities under redevelopment rather than ensuring justice?
As far as I understand your question, the theory of Jeremy Bentham's idea of utilitarianism comes to my mind. Like all the capitalistic models are based upon providing the goods to the largest number of the people. But they forget that the people who are marginalized are the worst sufferers of the same thing. So, in the same notion, we have to inculcate the ideas of John Rawls' theory of justice, which gives the idea that if we are doing unjusticiable things, then that should be in the favor of marginalism, that should be in the favor of those who are deprived in the society. So yes, the capitalistic models should inculcate these things with a comprehensive balance with the social justice as well as environmental justice. Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on to the next question. She is also pointing out, related to the Bentham's theory of utilitarianism, that is based on greater happiness for greater number. So, how does you justify the greatest good of the greatest number, the greatest suffering of the poorest? How can it be, justified?
The same answer that I have previously given is one of the justification that I have delivered so far. जेरेमी बैंथम का जो आउटलुक है, जो आइडिया है, वो बोलता है कि ग्रेटेस्ट नंबर को हम गुड प्रोवाइड करेंगे या उनको सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करेंगे, सो दैट शुड बी आवर एम. बट अगर हम उसमें भूल जाते हैं कि कोई डिप्राइव सेक्शन को प्रॉब्लम हो रही है सोसाइटी में, देन इट इज वेरी अनएथिकल इन नेचर. सो वी हैव टू थिंक विद आवर ethical or moral segments. So for the same sake, I come for Ambedkarite and Gandhian ideas and same John Rawls theory of justice. So this is all about the interpretation that I can give.
Okay, very well answered. The next question is, with so many critical areas to address, slum upgrading, drainage, floodplain restriction. So, what is the framework for prioritizing one intervention over another in such a resource constrained environment?
Okay, so first and foremost, we need to broaden our horizon. For instance, if we see that recently we are witnessing flood in Punjab, so there should be the matter of mitigation. Like flood जो issue है या slum जो issue है, वो किसी particular individual का issue नहीं है. यहाँ पर stakeholders, private players और community as a whole को सोचने की जरूरत है. It is a common responsibility of each and every individual of the society. So यहाँ पर government को मिलकर काम करने की जरूरत है. Government need to inculcate or implement the policies with the help of state governments, and apart from any different political affiliations. So these issues must be taken very sensitively. So that's all I can say.
Okay. Hemant, since you pointed out related to the government policies, we do have another question. So, how can coordination between different states and central government bodies, such as Haryana and Delhi government, be improved to manage the cross-border flood issues?
Okay. So first and foremost, as far as I have earlier mentioned, that सबसे पहले mediation होना चाहिए. समझने की जरूरत है कि जो दिल्ली के रेजिडेंट हैं वो भी ह्यूमंस हैं और जो हरियाणा में रिसाइड कर रहे हैं वो भी ह्यूमन बीइंग्स हैं. सो अगर कहीं पर भी लोगों को पेन हो रहा है, कहीं पर भी सफरिंग हो रही है, सो वी आर डेफिनेटली डूइंग इनजस्टिस विद देम. सो वी हैव टू अडॉप्ट सर्टेन टेक्नोलॉजीज. जैसे मैंने अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन में भी बोला है कि वी कैन यूज एआई मॉडल्स एंड जीपीएस मॉडल्स. सैटेलाइट्स को हम वहाँ देख सकते हैं, सैटेलाइट से हम एरियाज को ट्रेस कर सकते हैं, और हम थोड़ा rather being exclusive, हम inclusively इन issues को tackle करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. सोचें कि ये issue हमारे हैं और हमको ही इनको solve करना है. So इस तरीके से हम इन चीजों को get rid हो सकते हैं. Apart from any different political affiliations, be it if you are from any particular political party, that doesn't make any sense, irrespective if you are not doing for the betterment of the society as a whole. So your purpose should be inclusive rather than any kind of exclusivity. You have to be egalitarian in terms of solving these kind of sensitive issues. Thank you.
Okay, would take one last question. So, there's often a risk that upgrading informal settlements can lead to gentrification and displacement of the original residents. So, what safeguards are there in the plan to prevent that?
Ma'am, could you please pardon your question?
Yes, I'll repeat it. How it could be a problem for the original residents related to the displacement. So what safeguards are there that, if you're upgrading the informal settlements, so it is not leading to gentrification or other problems for the original residents residing there?
I can understand. Once again, thank you so much, ma'am, for this question. What I can interpret on this is that we have to allocate certain land for those who are recently slum dwellers. Like ऐसा भी नहीं होना चाहिए that हम उन लोगों को problem में डाल दें जो original residents हैं. So we have to create jobs, we have to create opportunities in local towns and local cities, rather than everyone is migrating to the bigger cities like Delhi or Mumbai or Bangalore. So we have to be very focused on urban planning issues. Urban planning बहुत अच्छे से करें, because nowadays what we are witnessing, cities are very much unplanned. Like उनका जो infrastructure है बहुत unplanned तरीके से है, वहाँ पर बहुत ज़्यादा devastations देखने को मिलते हैं. So for the same, we can trace the idea of history. We have seen in IVC, that is Indus Valley Civilization, किस तरीके से वहाँ पर drainage system था. So yeah, with this we can get rid of this as far as I understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hemant. That was the questions from the listeners. We do have one question from our team. So please elaborate your experience related to the platform or related to, your experience with the team.
Okay. It's indeed a matter of pride for me that I got this amicable opportunity to present myself over here. Like it is my first experience to taking any particular talk. Like being from a debating field, I have debated a lot within the campus or within the Delhi University circuit, but it is something different. And topic is very much sensitive, जो जिसने मेरे को मजबूर किया research करने पर. And I'm very much happy to share कि सभी ने मेरे को insights दिए. सर को मैं रात को भी text करता था कि सर ये ऐसे है. So sir was always there for me. I'm talking about Dr. Manish sir. शैलेंद्र सर ने भी मेरी बहुत हेल्प करी है. So मुझे सिखाया कि किस तरीके से प्रेजेंट कर सकते हैं, किस तरीके से बोल सकते हैं. एंड इट वाज लवली फॉर मी. मतलब व्हाट शुड आई से, बहुत बहुत ज्यादा अच्छा लगा. एंड आई एम वेरी मच हैप्पी एंड आई एम वेरी मच ईगर टू वर्क विद दीस काइंड ऑफ प्लेटफॉर्म्स इन फ्यूचर. थैंक यू सो मच.
Thank you so much, Hemant. We are equally honored to have you on our stage and to, talk about such a crucial issue. Please stay connected with us throughout the talk. So now we would be truly honored to hear final thoughts from our guest of honor. Ma'am, I invite you for your insights related to the discussion and about our platform.
The platform is excellent, Ms. Saraswat. I must say the questions are also excellent. So congratulations not only to the presenter for completing a intense, and I understand a lot of information and a lot of questions which you have raised can lead also to a different kind of research. This platform is excellent. I mean, I'm experiencing it for the first time, but I am being so encouraged to think that, okay, this can also be done. This is also a platform. There are people who are so interested. I'm really thankful to be here today, and it's a privilege for me to be here. Few things that I would like to present out with Mr. Hemant's understandings. I found it very interesting how you spoke about climate justice without mentioning the term climate justice, because this term inherently talks about the differential responsibilities. It is understood very clearly that this principle recognizes the unequal burden of climate change impacts on the marginalized and the vulnerable communities. They are the least polluters, but they suffer the most. So what is emerging nowadays in the literature is the concept of climate refugees, who are always somewhere or the other forced to leave their original lands, whether it is in the rural areas, whether it is in the urban areas. Rural floods are not talked of so much, but are they not submerged? They are also submerged. When we talk about crop losses, we are actually talking of villages. We are not talking of the urban areas. This time, for example, Punjab is going to have a huge amount of crop loss. Plus, the soil composition will also change because of the kind of depositions which has occurred. So there is going to be an environmental cost to what we have experienced as flooding. And this kind of disaster costs completely raise our understandings. Our everyday living standards are definitely impacted, but other than that also, there is a lot of impact on the overall situation of every family, every person involved in that. Now, the people who live on the floodplains are actually the worst affected. They are the least able to even buy the basic necessities. That is why they are in that position. Anybody who can move out does move out. But despite that, these are communities. At least in India, these are communities. I found it very interesting to hear about your Brazilian experience, the favelas that you talked of. In slum research, Brazil and India were the first people to talk about such communities and such dwellings, urban dwellings per se. Favela is a very old term. It's a very, very old term coming from almost 16th or 17th century. And talking of mestizos, that is the mixed bloods who used to live beyond the levels of the areas of the Spanish or the Portuguese gentry which used to live there. One question I think somebody asked about gentrification. I think it was Ms. Chakraborty, Ms. Anagha Chakraborty. Ma'am, gentrification is a little bit different. Gentrification is movement of population willingly away from the city towards the rural areas in search of a better living, where climate really matters, where you will have clean air, clean water. Gentrification is a reverse of urbanization. So in India, we are not really seeing gentrification as such. We are seeing far more expansion of the urban areas. Areas which were towards the margins are now becoming the central areas of the city. Because what we see is developing is, or has developed, is the multiple nuclei across the city. We are a big population. We are a populous state, to be saying that very clearly. Safeguards are difficult and different also. Because climate resilient infrastructure, what we are looking at today is green technology, climate resilient infrastructure, and equity in climate policy are very, very difficult for us to achieve. There is a huge input cost, which at this stage, we may not be able to put in all the levels. We are putting it. The government through its policies is doing a lot. The smart city concept, for example, internet facility at the lowest possible rates for everybody, making things available, making knowledge available. That was most important. Some things which we thought were not so useful, concepts of mud mortar. The areas where I come from, I think most of us are migrants in Delhi. We have come from some far off areas. I come from it used to be a small city. Now it is quite a big, it used to be a town. Now it is being called a city. And the other places are even smaller areas like Hazaribagh and Dhanbad, where I come from. They used to have a concept of mud mortar. Mud used to be compacted so well that they formed the walls. Those houses did not fall down. Somewhere, indigenous knowledge practices, what is known as rural ideas or rural practices, also needs to be brought into the concept of what infrastructure can be. Together, we need ample amount of research that what should be the minimum or the quantum of cement mixed up with mud mortar, what kind of mud, what kind of water resilience becomes very important. The other thing is, because of this expansion of urban places or urban housing, what we are facing regularly is a depreciation of the water absorbing areas, marshes, just fallow land, just outside the city where nobody farmed. But those were somebody's properties, but they absorbed the excess water. That is not happening. We are closing those areas. Right now, what we are is in a state of urban continuum, or even as the fringes are meeting each other. So the continuum is becoming much more of a reality than anything else. And that is where our consideration needs to be greater. Move out of Delhi, go towards Bhiwadi, go towards, even on the Delhi-Jaipur highway, huge colonies have come up where hills and just forest used to be there. Maybe scrub forest, but forest nevertheless. To cater to those colonies, there has to be a lot of services which are not there presently perhaps, but they will be there. Once people start living continuously in those areas, then they will be inhabited completely. They will need the facilities. So between Delhi to Jaipur, you will not find any more hills. Delhi's problems are also exacerbated because of its geographical position. It is a bowl. Once the hills around us have gone, we are prone to every kind of disaster, the winds, the heat, the cold, the waters, everything comes back to Delhi. And that is where interstate cooperation becomes very important. Delhi's the Yamuna flooding is also because of the Hathni Kund barrage built about 150, 60 years ago. One of the most advanced barrages that I have seen, because it has storm water stopping capacities to decrease the speed of water, something which is missing in many of our newly built dams. But Hathni Kund barrage has that. Despite that, we still face downstream this kind of situation because our river beds are not really able to absorb that level of water. And one of the major causes, at least for this, is that within 2 kilometers of the Hathni Kund barrage, there are 8 power generation stations. Within a square kilometer of 2 square kilometers, 1.5 to 1.8. And the Western Yamuna Canal starts there. So waters of the Yamuna, once they come out there is a very small location there, which I don't want to name, but it's in that vicinity only. It is a place where 5 states meet, basically. Haryana, Uttaranchal, Himachal, Punjab, and of course parts of, if I may say so, linked to Delhi also. It's at the tip of Yamuna Nagar. It's a very small place called Kalisar. That is where the Yamuna comes out into the fields. If you go to Kalisar, you will see layers of depositions which can be dated. And they have been dated. There's a lot of intense research work going on there, which has gone on before also. Now, if you divert the waters towards the Yamuna canals, and what we see downstream is effluent, then suddenly if there is water, the land will not absorb. The riverbed will find it very difficult to absorb that amount of excess water. To a certain extent, that is also what happens. When the diversions are not able to absorb, because as I said, 2 kinds of flooding. 1, excess water, yes, but over a period of time. 2, intense rainfall in a shorter duration, which is what we are seeing nowadays. It did not rain in Delhi in 22 August, if I may say so, when we were having exams. But out of the blue, Delhi was flooded till Rajpur Road in the university campus. My own college, this time also we see standing water because we are also on the floodplains. Ultimately, Delhi University's part is also on the floodplains. So the shifting of the rivers, the underlying geology, and the pressure on the land is important. This is something to which there is no ready-made answer. We may say climate technologies, we may say resilience. How? That becomes the major question. So it has to be a mixture of all of these. Some amount of resilience, some amount of community building, some amount of green infrastructure coming in, some amount of understanding of how the wetlands around us need to be cleaned or kept alive rather than building on them. So all these little things will together make the framework for what I think would be a good response to this kind of flooding, because flooding is natural. We will not be able to stop it. It is not human beings are not really capable of changing weather or the direction of rivers as such. So we have to adapt to it. We have to cope with it. Our adaptation strategies, therefore, need far more intense understanding. Everything has its role to play. What we need is the good mixture. That is what I would say. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for the understanding and listening to me patiently.
Thank you so much, ma'am. With your expertise, you have truly enriched our understanding. Thank you so much for making this event even more memorable. We are very grateful for you. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to invite next speaker from Aligarh Muslim University, Miss Madiha, to give us a brief related to her topic for next week. Madiha, are you there?
Yes, I was not able to turn on my mic before.
Okay, go ahead. Please explain your objectives.
So good evening, everyone. It was really good to listen on to the topic discussed, and it was very informative indeed. My name is Madiha Naz. I'm a fourth-year undergraduate student of English literature at Aligarh Muslim University. Over the course of my studies, I've been specially interested in areas like subaltern studies and gender, and which has often, open up ways of reading literature beyond the dominant frameworks. These interests have led me to my topic for next week's talk, where I'll be speaking on Banu Mushtaq's Heart Lamp. I'll be reflecting on how her work highlights the double marginalization faced by women, and how her writing from the Bandaya or the protest tradition challenges the way we think about literature and its canon. At the same time, I'm also curious about how texts like The Heart Lamp and related to it create a space to rethink questions of belonging and identity in contemporary contexts. I'm really looking forward to sharing these ideas with you all and learning from the discussion as well. Thank you.